This is Shannon Holton, Real Salty Dietitian and owner of Sound Growth Nutrition and Wellness. Today I want to talk about a grain of truth as it relates to over-the-counter and some of the multi-level marketing supplements that are out there, as well as covering a research article that came out recently from the American Heart Association and NHANES, which is a national database of health and human information. When we talk about supplements, over-the-counter, and some of the products that are used in the multi-level marketing lifestyle plans, we always approach it and say that there's a grain of truth to the claims that they make. When I say that there's a grain of truth, it usually means that there's an ingredient or a couple of ingredients that have some level of research behind it associated with outcomes of different health conditions. One example I can think of is cinnamon. Cinnamon has been discussed as related to improving glycemic control or blood sugars. And so oftentimes there'll be over-the-counter supplements for health that will contain cinnamon and advertise that it will help with your diabetes. Oftentimes they come with multiple ingredients, a list of anywhere from 4 to 12 different ingredients that may or may not be good for you. If you have specific health conditions, you have to be very careful about what you are taking from a supplement standpoint. And it's also really important to make sure that your doctor knows about those, and most likely asking before you start on a program whether or not that's okay for you or safe for you. The other conflict that I have is that oftentimes they will advertise the 1 or 2 ingredients that promote some sort of health claim, but they will also say that there is a proprietary blend. And so you actually don't get a full list of ingredients in the products. Those ones you really want to make sure that you're very careful with so that you don't take something that could actually cause you harm if you have a medical condition. The aspect of diets and some of the multi-level marketing programs, the first thing I'll say, if it works for you, if it's safe for you, and you can live with it long term, then, go for it. All diets work. I've mentioned that several times in the past, that any diet you go on or any program you go on where it is controlling or monitoring your intake and your nutrition, they will work. There are some things to think about when you embark on some of those, and that was related to the study that I actually read the other day, and it's associated with cardiovascular health and intermittent fasting, which is actually a really popular aspect to a lot of the programs that are out there that you get with a supplement and a program. The most recent data has come out where they evaluated national health information, and NHANES is the database where they will track people's eating habits and lifestyles, people's cause of death, diseases that are associated with health, and monitoring statistics. So they looked at the intermittent fasting between the years of 2003 to 2018, I believe. What they found was that out of 20,000 data points or people that they assessed who had been following some level of intermittent fasting, they did not find that there was a health benefit long term. I know a few years ago when it became very, very popular, they talked about cardiovascular protection and things like that. And some of that, I think, would probably more likely be associated with weight loss. If you lost weight, of course, there's a likelihood that you may have better health outcomes, whether it's heart health, high blood pressure, atherosclerosis, those types of things. So what they did find, however, is that long term, if you restrict your eating to less than 8 hours a day, meaning you have your meals in a very compressed time period, that you do have an increased risk of death from cardiovascular event. So you may have an increased risk of stroke or heart attack if you long term follow an intermittent fasting plan. That doesn't account for the programs that I know that are out there that actually require several days of no food and just utilizing a supplement or a liquid added to your water bottle, that kind of thing. So that's a little bit concerning, especially if you already have a strong family history of heart disease or you currently have heart disease. That type of a program would probably be a greater risk for you. It does look at the habits that people followed and the duration of time. So I think there'll probably be more detailed studies that come out. For example, if you have somebody that's fasting and keeping their intake to 8 hours a day versus somebody that's only eating in a 4-hour window, you may see increased risk with different time frames. But overall, the general recommendation is to spread your meals out appropriately between that 8 to 12 hour mark, and not to fast completely at all. And that it may not be harmful if you are a healthy person. And again, like I said, talk to your doctor before embarking on any program. But I thought it was very concerning when I was thinking about my topic today as far as the over-the-counter supplements and the multi-level marketing programs. And then I read this article and thought, this kind of goes along with it, even though it's not exactly what I intended to talk about. It's just really something to think about before you start something like that. What I will say about some of the supplements is that there is that level of science. I did a talk prior on looking at the type of science and the type of research, and it's really important if you're going to take a supplement to see what kinds of studies that they did. And if it was studies, quote unquote, done by the company themselves, paid for by the company themselves, of course, there's a bias and an invested interest in making that look good. They're also often not regulated, so the FDA does not have to regulate things that are supplements that have things like ginkgo or cinnamon or ginseng. And so you don't always necessarily know, if it's not regulated, what the actual quantity of ingredients are, because they're not always testing. Some independent supplement companies do. So there are ones that will have a little indicator on the label that said that it is certified. And that's really the ideal if you are going to take a supplement, to make sure that it has been certified. The ones that say proprietary blend, they do give me caution, because those may not be healthy for you if you have things like a history of cardiovascular disease or diabetes. They could be harmful. And if you don't know what the ingredients are, you can't make that assessment, and your doctor can't make that assessment. So I always just say buyer beware, and keep in mind that there is a grain of truth in whatever you read. So you can choose to hold on to that grain of truth, or you can choose to do a little bit more digging, or to ask a dietitian or your doctor if the product is safe for you. That's my little tidbit for today, talking about that grain of truth and talking about the study associated with intermittent fasting and the concerns that are starting to arise from long-term usage. I hope that everybody has a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.